Hello and a big welcome back to all my subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber, why not? What's wrong with you? Today, I'm revisiting again some more of these programming magazines from the sort of 80s and 90s and looking at sort of things that are, if they're relevant for today or whatever. So I just literally read one whole magazine which was about telecommunications, all of which is now defunct and no longer relevant at all, since even phone companies don't use any of this stuff anymore. But some things are quite relevant in that they're sort of evergreen content that's never going to go bad. And one of these, which I want to show you right now, is an article called Program Design Using Pseudocode. Now, you can find this if you download Dr. Dobbs Journal Volume 9, right? And it's on starts on 207. But this is a really long article which shows you how to do programming design using pseudocode, or basically writing it out in English. Now, to do this, they do a really good job, because they go through and show you an example of the design philosophy by actually writing out a game or describing a game that he wants to write in a programming language in pseudocode. And so he establishes what the game is about. He talks about the design levels, the modules that are going to be in there. So, the modules, or possibly functions, or whatever your subdivision in whatever programming language you're doing it in uses. And then he talks about movement and missile control and scanning and intercept and all of that. So he describes all of the possible modules that you're going to do in the first level design. Then in the second level, he turns these generic sort of modules into routines that are going to be actual code. So, what does the loop structure look like? What are the variables going to look like? That sort of thing. And then he looks at the logic. Now, this is just, for each ship, do blah blah blah. It's not a programming language per se. It's just pseudocode. It's what you would kind of write if you were writing it in English. So call fighter movement, call missile control, blah blah blah. And then he defines the variables and things that he needs to run this, and the functions that is required to run this, right? So he runs through all of this, and then he starts the design process with the description of what each function is going to do. And then the last thing is this level 3 design, is to work out the data structures and the operations that are going to be required to do all of this. So I think a lot of this particular one is assuming that you're going to do this in sort of assembly code. So, how many bytes for the position, etc. I mean, if you were doing this in a modern language like C, you would just say, integer, int. You wouldn't really worry about any of that stuff. But you might worry about whether it's a global variable, whether it's a local variable, or any of that sort of stuff. But he goes through the whole thing, and then he tells you about the conventions that he used, and it's a really good long article on how to write up a potential program and program flow in this sort of pseudocode design. So it's really, really cool. It's a really good idea, and I suggest that if you are going to start writing programming, if you're a beginner You're not doing it commercially and you're just doing something for yourself. Do this. Start out with, write out some pseudocode, what your program's going to do, how it's going to do it, do the design levels, and work out how your program flow is going to work. And if you're doing an assembly language program, this is really useful because program control and flow can be more difficult than in a higher level language like Rust or C or Python or whatever. But that's it for me today. It was just a quick look at some of the really interesting stuff that's still available and still useful to programmers today. Right, if you like this sort of stuff, like and subscribe and press the button and the bells and all that jazz and share it around to everybody you know, and I will see you soon. Bye.